continue the cycle of extending or expanding our military presence in Afghanistan, hoping to create ideal conditions for the withdrawal and expecting a different result. I'm now the 4th United States president to preside over American troop presence in Afghanistan. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I will not pass this responsibility on to.
Let's get some analysis. Mariam Safi is the founding director of the Organization for Policy Research and Development Studies, a think tank in Afghanistan. She joins us now from Kabul. Mariam, thank you so much for your time for us here at TRT World. First of all, what will the troops pull out mean for the future of the country itself?
Well, the withdrawal of U.S. troops and NATO troops from Afghanistan will mean that the Afghan National Security Forces and the Afghan government and the people of Afghanistan will have to shoulder 100% of the security responsibilities that plague Afghanistan. And those are security responsibilities that are very different and paramount to what they were in 2001. At a time when we were dealing with one terrorist organization, we are now dealing with a reported 22 terrorist organizations. And so that's what it will mean for Afghans after the troop withdrawal.
The government in Afghanistan controls the cities, but large parts of the rural areas are still controlled by the Taliban. Is the government strong enough to withstand with the Taliban and other terrorist groups in Afghanistan?
The Afghan National Security Forces have been shouldering a large burden of this role since the security transition that took place in 2014. And since then, they've been suffering large numbers of fatalities on a daily basis. And if that continues at that rate, and we're expecting for violence to increase after the withdrawal, it will be very difficult for the Afghan National Security Forces to continue at this rate. And they are fighting not one, but several organizations, terrorist organizations across the country.
I do want to ask you one question. Having in mind that the violence against women has surged in the past year, now with the troops pull out, what will this mean for the women specifically in Afghanistan? How worried are they?
Well, for the women of Afghanistan, the biggest concern for them is that the gains of the last 20 years may be rolled back in this scenario. Because the presence of foreign troops in Afghanistan for the time being, and the request from the people of Afghanistan to ensure a responsible withdrawal was as a pressure point to make sure that the Taliban remain on the table to reach a political settlement, and a sustainable political settlement that would both bring stability to Afghanistan but also protect their gains, protect the key fundamental rights that are enshrined in the Afghan constitution, withholding any revisions that take place. And at this particular moment, as the U.S. Prepares to withdraw, and that too withdraw without any conditions, which is the most shocking aspect of this announcement, will be one that will be difficult to determine how and when we will be able to see such a sustainable peace, and whether the Taliban will remain at the table, and whether we have enough leverage to ensure that the Taliban stay committed to these to protecting these fundamental rights.
Right. And the U.S. came to Afghanistan because the country was blamed for sheltering al-Qaeda. But today, as you were saying, 20 years later, the al-Qaeda, Daesh, and the Taliban themselves are still present. So is there a concern that the country could revert to being safe haven for terror groups?
Well, I'd like to point out here that as early as January, the press secretary for the Pentagon had stated that the Taliban had not remained committed to their promises in the U.S.-Taliban agreement, which was to reduce violence and also to renounce all ties with al-Qaeda. And this was a statement coming out of the Pentagon itself. And very recently, this past week, CIA director, had also reiterated that he fears that this withdrawal might create space for the resurrection of the Taliban, and also create spaces and vacuums that can then be occupied by the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. And Al-Qaeda is not a dwindling group in Afghanistan. Reports suggest that this group is now growing in the country.
Mariam Safi, I appreciate your insight for us here at TRT World. She's the founding director of the Organization for Policy Research and Development. That's a think tank in Afghanistan. Thank you, Mariam, once again.